Hi, I'm Chris McQueen, here with Premier Guitar to talk about Grant Green and jazz blues. Grant Green was a major figure in jazz guitar throughout the 60s and 70s. I listened to him a lot when I was first getting into jazz, and I think that's because compared to a lot of other guitar players, his playing has a lot of blues in it. If you're not used to listening to jazz, it can be pretty intimidating, and for me, Grant Green seemed a lot more approachable than others. That's why I think he's a great bridge for those of you who might be coming from a blues guitar background but want to start getting into jazz. Rather than treating jazz as this whole new thing that you have to start from scratch and learn from the bottom up, instead, let's start with what we know. So, we're going to talk about the jazz blues, which is a variation on the 12-bar blues. For this lesson, I'm going to assume that you have some amount of comfort with playing blues guitar. Maybe you've got some licks, some patterns, but maybe not a lot of experience playing over jazz changes. By the end of this video, we're going to learn 3 bebop licks, but we're not going to go too far down the rabbit hole of jazz music theory. The idea here is that we're just going to dip a toe into some jazz, but stay firmly grounded in blues guitar. So let's start by looking at the 12-bar blues. There are, of course, many variations we could do, but this is probably the simplest possible version. The 12-bar blues has 3 big phrases. The first phrase is just the 1 chord. The second phrase goes to the 4 chord and then back to the 1 chord. And the third phrase has the most changes. It goes to the 5, back to the 4, and then finally back home to the 1 chord. So each phrase builds a little more harmonic tension, which makes the final resolution back to the 1 chord really satisfying. So how is a jazz blues different from a regular blues? Well, from a harmonic perspective, jazz musicians are usually trying to superimpose other chord changes on top of the chord changes that are already happening. The most common jazz chord progression to superimpose is the 2-5-1 chord progression. So let's say we're in the key of B flat, the 2 chord would be C minor, and then the 5 chord would be F or F7. So a 2-5-1 in the key of B flat is C minor, F7, B flat. Just like before, we're basically just creating a lot of harmonic tension that we resolve back to the home base 1 chord. So in order to turn this regular 12-bar blues into a jazz blues, we're going to try to put one of these 2-5-1 chord progressions in there somewhere. The place we're going to do that is in the third phrase. Instead of 5-4-1, we'll make it 2-5-1. The whole idea is that this is the most important climactic part of the 12-bar blues progression. So if you're playing jazz, this is where you're really going to want to put your most interesting harmonic stuff. One other thing we're going to add in is a G7 just before the C minor in measure 8. G is the 5 of C minor, so we're really just using this as a way to naturally lead into the C minor. So that's all the changes we're going to make, and this is now a jazz blues. Of course, you don't have to stop there, and jazz musicians are constantly putting in lots of other 2-5-1 progressions and other types of chords to make this form more interesting, more unique. But you don't need to do any of that. As long as you play these 3 measures here, you're playing jazz blues. So, of course, the question that we're all really here for, how do you improvise over this? The first thing I want to say, and something that I wish that I had figured out much earlier than I did, is this. You could just keep playing your normal blues stuff over this whole thing. You don't have to acknowledge these other chord changes at all, and this is something that you'll actually hear all the time in jazz recordings. You can hear just about every jazz musician ignoring changes to some extent, and it's especially true of players like Grant Green, who already use a lot of blues in their playing. So let's do a little example of what that might sound like. I personally would much rather listen to someone who's not making any of the changes, but is playing meaningful, good-feeling musical phrases, over someone who is hitting all the changes, but never really lands a satisfying phrase. And I don't mean that to be negative in any way at all. I'm speaking to my past self, sometimes to my current self, and to any of y'all who maybe think that in order to play jazz, you have to throw away everything you know about music and replace it all with Locrian sharp 2 scales and diminished scale patterns. I'm saying that rather than starting with the math and then eventually making some music out of that, you could start with your ear and your musical sensibility that you already have and start adding a little bit of complexity into that. So with that in mind, let's do exactly that. Let's take this blues and add some jazz complexity into it. Some jazz plexity. Because despite what I just said, it is true that ignoring the changes on a jazz blues only gets you so far. Going back to Grant Green, normally what he'll do is ignore the changes for some amount of time and then launch into some cool bebop lines. And it's really the blending of those two things in this seamless way that makes it sound really cool. So I'm going to show you how simple this can be. All we're going to do is play our normal blues stuff for every one of these measures except measures 8 and 9. Where we'll follow the jazz changes. Measure 8 is G7 and measure 9 is C minor. You might have thought we would also play this F7 in measure 10 to finish out the 2-5-1 progression, but nope, we're just gonna go right back to playing blues licks. So, here's what that sounds like. Okay, so now I'm going to break down what I just played. I did 3 different bebop licks over the G7 C minor part of this chord progression, all very much inspired by Grant Green recordings. So the first lick was this. It starts with just a straight up G major triad, and then we do the 7, so it's a G7, and then we play this A flat here, which is the flat 9 of the G7, A flat, G, and then we resolve to this E flat, which is the 3rd of C minor. It starts just after beat 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And that's all we do for that lick, and then we just go right back to playing something bluesy in the key of B flat, so... something like that. Okay, so the second lick we did was this one. So thinking of this as a G7, starting on a G, G, D, F. Once again, I'm kind of resolving to this E flat. And then we kind of extend the lick over C minor with this. E flat, F, G, E flat, D, C. We do a little turn on the D. Hammer on E flat, pull off back down to the D. And then, again, just play whatever blues lick you want after that. I did this one. Sort of minor blues lick in B flat. Together that's... And the timing for this one starts just after beat 2. So it's 1, 2, with the E flat landing right on the downbeat of the C minor measure. So a lot of upbeat syncopation on the first part of this. 1, 2. Okay, so the third lick incorporates some chromaticism into the line. So we start off with this, pulling down all the way from F to D, and then C, B, which outlines that G7. And then we jump up to an A flat and walk down to E flat. And this starts right on the downbeat of measure 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, this one kind of extends a little lick over the C minor as well. And for that, we're doing, and this is a really common sort of bebop thing, doing E flat, C, D, B, C. And it's just a way to kind of get from the E flat to the C with some approach notes, if you will. And then, in order to kind of get back to the blues types of stuff, I just walked it up. So that's just walking up C minor. And then here, I'm just doing my B flat blues. So altogether, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's just a very introductory sort of look into some of the things you can play to kind of get some bebop, jazz types of things happening in this jazz blues without feeling like you have to kind of like completely abandon all your blues stuff. Mostly play your blues stuff and then kind of put in a little bit of jazz licks as you go. Hopefully this has whet your appetite to do your own listening to Grant Green, maybe do some transcribing, learn some of the stuff off of the records, and start to learn your own vocabulary. If you like this video and you want to go learn some other stuff, you can check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Chris McQueen Music. I have a whole series about funk rhythm guitar and a bunch of other fun things. That's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.